Hi there, it's Mary Charlson here from 5minutemarketing.com. Welcome back to this week's 5-Minute Marketing Tip. This week, we're taking a look at digital transformation. Specifically, we're taking a look at what's happening now and how we're responding to it during the pandemic and COVID-19. It can be easy to get lulled into a sense of complacency. We've been asked to, kind of be idle, maybe kind of hold tight, not travel so much, kind of sit back, not be interacting as much. And it can be easy to get lulled into this same sense with our businesses. In fact, a lot of businesses have pulled back. They've pulled back their spending. They've pulled back some of their, the kind of that they're waiting to kind of see what is going to respond. And I'd like to suggest to you this: now is not the time to be flat-footed. Now is the time to understand so many other things that are happening around us. This whole digital transformation is happening at lightning speed while we're being asked to sit kind of idle during COVID. So, the early days of innovation, we saw music, right? It was digitized content, the whole distribution system got messed up. Not messed up, really. It was just transformed, whether it be through, purchasing music. Now it's through subscription services. We saw the same thing happen with Rogers and Blockbuster and video rentals as things went online, as we got higher speed internet, Netflix, Amazon, all of the streaming services. We saw the same thing with hotels, the way that the sharing economy and Airbnb came onto play, where that really disrupted that whole industry. Taxis have been disrupted by rideshare through like Lyft and Uber. Vancouver, one of the last bastions in North America, or the world for that matter, that took forever to get rideshare. These are just a handful of examples of where disruption and this whole digital transformation has changed industries. But I want you to consider that these have all happened in the last 10 years. That's pretty remarkable when you think. And then you try to pose, well, what is happening as we move forward? And, during COVID, we've seen selling change dramatically, e-commerce, touchless payment systems. Like I haven't had cash in my wallet for close to a year. We've seen transformation happen at lightning speed, and that won't be rolling back. And a lot of our patterns have shifted, whether it be where we work, where we play, where we live, how we learn. All of these things have been transformed. And so what I'd like to do is take a look at a couple disruptive forces, and let's just take a look at the industries that they will kind of have ripple effects. And let's just take one as driverless cars. We're moving in this direction. And this idea that driverless cars will disrupt the auto industry. For sure it will, but it will have much bigger tentacles than that. Take auto repair as an example. It's essentially a computer on wheels. Tesla is kind of like that already. Essentially, will we need mechanics? Will we need service, right? Well, how will all of that be handled? How about insurance, right? We're going to need some new policies. How do we deal with a collision between a driverless car and one that was driven by a person, right? How do we establish fault? How do those policies handle that? How about parking? Will we summon our car? Will it be through an app? For that matter, does the car actually have to be physically anywhere near to where we're staying? Maybe the parking lots could be somewhere else. Car design. By default, we face forward, but if we're not driving the thing, I don't know, maybe it should just be a couch on wheels. Maybe it can be more of an entertainment vessel where we're watching screens, we're doing things as it transports us on our own. I mean, this sounds a little bit Jetsons, but you have to start thinking. Car design all of a sudden gets impacted. Ownership and licensing, right? Do you have separate, right? Can you own a car, but you're not licensed if you're under 16? For that matter, is there an age limit for driving anymore? How about the person who's over, 80, 85, who's maybe lost their license for, not being able to kind of, vision or whatever it might be? Can they still own a car if it's a driverless car? How is that licensed? How is it insured? How about house and condo design? For that matter, downtown business building design, in terms of cars, that they're being parked, how they're being left, if people are owning them or not, right? Deliveries changes everything, doesn't it? in terms of cars. How about truck drivers and taxis? Will we need them? How will that work? And just the whole car share, the Ubers, the Lyfts, right? Will they have new competitors? Or maybe I can just kind of hire out my driverless car while I sit home and watch Netflix and it can make money for me. There's a thought. How about the relevancy of outdoor advertising? All those billboards that we see as we're driving along, ads on the outside of, buses and whatnot. If we're not paying attention to where we're driving, if somebody else is driving, maybe those ads aren't relevant anymore. It's kind of like those ads that we see on the inside of buses and sky trains, those ones that are all up along, the top of the bus, and everyone's looking down at their device, right? Maybe those outdoor ads won't be relevant anymore. How about healthcare? Let's assume that AI that's driving these driverless cars is going to make better decisions than us. And so maybe there will be fewer accidents. How does that impact emergency rooms and care? And then there's just the whole ethics around AI and driverless cars. And so it's only as good as the data put in. And so how do we determine the value of a life? So if this car is careening towards a pedestrian on the sidewalk, does it decide if they're young or old when it decides whether we're going to hit them or not? How about the decision between that pedestrian and a car full of 4 people as the other choice? Somebody has to make the decisions for the if, then, else kind of programming that goes into the AI to let it make those decisions. So, I mean, that's not an industry. That's an ethical thing in itself. But there will be an industry around the ethics of that. And then there's just policing. How do we issue a ticket to a car that doesn't have a driver? So these are just some examples of some industries that could be impacted by driverless cars. The whole point here being is that I want you to think beyond just the automotive industry. So with every one of these disruptive, digitized kind of trends, with every one of these, what we're seeing is the potential for it to have impact on a variety of industries. And if we just take a look at, the current digital innovation, we've got 5G rolling out, right? So a decade ago, our speed was 5 megabytes per second. Now we're with 4G, it's about 100 megabytes per second, remarkably faster. But 5G is 10 times faster. So if we had that kind of innovation and movement and shifts and disruption in the last 10 years to get us to 4G, what will 5G do with 10 times more? And just think about the potential disruption around that. How about AI and big data? There's another big bucket. What we see online, the suggestions that are made, it's all driven by AI and big data. And we expect it to impact a growing list of industries, a growing list of things that we interact with on a daily basis in our home, in our car, with other people online. How about voice search and v-commerce, or voice activated commerce? We know that during the pandemic, 35% more people are ordering through voice search through things like Alexa. Where can I get the cheapest toilet paper? Maybe that was back in April. But voice rank matters. All of a sudden, number 1 matters, right? Because voice takes the top result. It doesn't care if you're on the first page. It cares if you're the top. So what will happen around the race to be the one? It affects search. It affects all of the things on the back end. And voice search, we know, is growing. Robots, right? Robots are helping us clean, helping us disinfect, helping us with order fulfillment, restocking shelves. That's all during COVID. But, what will the future be as those continue to be used? Likely as we move forward. Here's the last one, 3D printing. I have to admit, I didn't quite get 3D printing initially. I mean, I know the whole printing industry, but I was like, well, how do you print something that's like an object? I didn't quite get it. But it's this whole notion of being able to produce something through digitized files to produce an object. Now, 3D printing basically will disrupt an entire chain of things, right? From manufacturing to assembly to warehouse to shipping to delivery to retail, you name it. Essentially, it will cut out the middleman. 3D printing has the potential to do to the whole manufacturing and fulfillment process what digitizing content did to music, entertainment, and the whole streaming industries. So, this whole digital, transformation really is kind of rolling out here. COVID has brought many new things into our life. We've got our e-commerce, we've got contactless printing, or sorry, contactless shipping. Excuse me, printing is back there in 3D. Contactless shipping, right? Contactless payment systems, robotic delivery, drones, digitized meetings, virtual meetings, and hybrids of that. We've got virtual learning, teleconsulting. I was watching something last night. It was a doctor who was talking about how this is actually better healthcare for some of his clients because he's able to bring in not only himself, but the community care person, the addictions, they're all in the same room with the patient. This is something that they could never do before. And basically, the systems have been put in place for COVID, and that's enabled this kind of innovation. So here's the question I have for you. Are you chained to an old model? That's the big risk here, is we need to push ourselves to think forward. Thinking forward is where we realize innovation. Standing still, being flat-footed, is where we experience disruption. Because let's face it, disruption is what somebody else does to you or another industry does to you. Blockbuster was disruptive. Right? Netflix was innovative. It's all a matter of kind of where you put yourself. So what side of history do you want to be on? That's the question. And don't get yourself caught to an old model. So the COVID quandary, as I started out with, was this whole thing is that it's easy to get lulled into not moving forward right now. We've put some plans on hold, we've pulled back budgets, but we need to be forward thinking even more than we used to be, because this digitized transformation, whole digital transformation is happening at an alarming pace. Now, I'm reading a book right now. It's actually really quite interesting. It's written by a fellow named Steven Shapiro, and it's called Invisible Solutions. Now, here's a bit of a look on here. It's called Invisible Solutions, 25 Lenses that Reframe and Help Solve Difficult Business Problems. It's essentially a book that causes you to think about things in a different perspective. It gives you a lot of questions to ask. Daniel Pink, well-known author, respected kind of student of social behavior. What he had to say about it is, in listening Shapiro's 25 Lenses, you'll see your business problems more clearly and come up with creative answers that will boggle your mind and delight your customers. I've been reading through this, but also then going back, earmarking, and looking at certain things and utilizing it to help consult and provide some thought-provoking ideas for clients that I'm working with right now that are dealing with the whole challenge around digital transformation and being innovative. So hopefully I've given you something to think about this week in terms of continuing not only to move forward, but to look forward and not be caught in this kind of idleness, which COVID can easily trick us into. So that's it for this week. Thanks for being here at 5-Minute Marketing Tips with Mary Charlson. If you like what you see, make sure you subscribe to my channel. I do this type of content regularly, as well as regular blog posts on my website, 5minutemarketing.com, F-I-V-E, minutemarketing.com. And I also do a regular Sunday morning e-newsletter that goes out to a very appreciative group of folks that I've been doing it for weekly since 2008. Free tips to help businesses, entrepreneurs make their marketing more successful. Would love to have you over there. If you visit 5minutemarketing.com, you can sign up on the site there. Thanks for being here. We'll see you again next week for some more marketing tips. Thanks.